Yeah, so in an overall sense, I have seen, because I've talked about being involved kind of in a general sense for over a decade now. And it makes me feel old to say this, but it's nice to see. I think today we have a lot more opportunities, a lot more support, a lot less infighting.
What do you mean by that?
So it's kind of like a negative stereotype, but when I was getting into scene, something that I heard all the time was like crab in bucket syndrome. And essentially, it's just the concept is like if you have so if we look at the phrase like literally, if you have a bunch of crabs in a bucket, if one's trying to climb out, the other one's going to pull it down. Uh, I kind of always hated that metaphor because we're not trapped, we're not stuck. It's kind of a mentality, and only from what I've seen, some people can get competitive. There's some gatekeeping some from time to time. I'm talking about like just over a decade, um, but I've seen it grow so much. Now there are a lot of spaces that are being made available. There are a lot of people opening galleries and studios, places where artists can be showcased and thrive. And I see, also with the advent of technology, advancements in technology, and in a way in which it's more accessible to people, that I think more people are getting into different types of art and production. It's a lot easier to buy these kind of mics, than say 10 years ago. So I think more people are getting more bold, and I love to see it. And as long as we have a culture of supporting one another, it can go a long way, and so from the literary sense, I studied, like I mentioned, in literature programs, teaching English, also through Border Senses, that nonprofit organization. It's our whole goal is to promote literacy in El Paso's literary arts. And so when you bring up literacy, unfortunately, it's kind of a rough thing to bring up because here in the region, we often have really low literacy rates. People are having a hard time with their reading and their writing. And so for me, that's also why I do all this, because when it comes down to it, literacy is just understanding language, and there's a lot of storytelling involved. And so with the work that I do, it's just trying to get people more confident in their own literacy skills, the literary skills. So literary is kind of more the art form. Literacy is like reading, writing. And I think as we promote the arts and we promote the literary arts, we can encourage more younger generations to maybe get more involved with, improving the
Okay.
work. And also, when people, so I don't want to get into that whole debate right now, but like the other thing is language is always changing. We're all learning as society, as a culture, and there are a lot of people who kind of sneer at slang, at lingo, but I just think as long as you can communicate a good, strong story, communicate effectively, it can go a long way. It doesn't have to be like when people say perfect English, right, or perfect Spanish, right? It's just really like that's what people are currently using, but we don't use like all that, the perfect English, perfect, like that's not what we used, 100 years ago. That was different. People, so it's all changing. So what I'm trying to do is give people passion for expressing themselves, telling their stories. That's a very important kind of literacy, and I think that's also why the arts are so important, because you can share your stories, your voice, the people, what concerns of your community through your art. You know, that's just as viable. And so there's some way to go, but I mean, as long as I think people are there for it.
Yeah.
Because it makes my heart hurt a little bit. That maybe people aren't reading as much, like, and the problem is maybe people are equating it to like homework and stuff, and it's not. Reading can be fun. You could learn so much about the world through that.